Hello, everybody! Eddie's got a new theme song. Ready? Listen.
Future real estate moguls in the house. Kristina guiding, no room for doubts.
Eddie, bring this down. Eddie's been making theme songs. There's a new AI tool that'll allow you to make theme songs, intro videos and stuff for intro videos. And he's been having fun with the AI creating intro video songs. So anyways, today we are talking about everything that could possibly be happening with the real estate market right now. We're going to be answering your questions. We do not have a guest today, so you guys are my guest. And we're going to be going over just what this news article came out with. It's not even actually really a news article. It's just a reporting from the National Association of REALTORS. And I know everybody's got a day off tomorrow, so I'm sure some of you are out there like living up the last days of summer, going in water skiing. Man, I would do anything to go water skiing right now. I haven't water skied since I was probably 18 years old. Yeah, I think that was the last time I water skied. I would love to do that right now. Anyways, so if Eddie, without further ado, if you could put the article on the screen that came from the National Association of REALTORS. Hey, lawnmower. I see some of you already stopped in. Nancy said we sold our house and bought another one, closing simultaneously. Our listing agent was flawless. Oh, that is so good to hear. With our buyer's agent in a different state. Our initial asking price was $559, sold for $498. The house we bought, the seller was motivated in dropping her price, so it went from $439 to $399. Golly, that's wonderful. We took a chance, offered $350. She countered at $369. We closed at $357. Need some sweat equity. Well, I'm so excited for you, Nancy. That is a great deal. And this goes into exactly what this article is about this week, which is the housing market is filled with wait and see home buyers. And sellers are starting to feel the pressure. There's no doubt about it, because they are willing to negotiate now. Many of them had dug their heels in for the past year saying, oh, no, I want my price. My neighbor sold their house for X amount and I'm going to sell it for the same amount. The thing is that, there's not as many buyers that are willing to pay the prices that were at the height of the market. And now buyers have a better leg to stand on as far as supply in many areas. Not all. Let's be realistic. But they do have a better leg to stand on. So here we go. All right. So this was put out on August 29th. Contract signings dropped to its lowest level on record last month, but pent up buyer demand could be waiting for opportunities to open up. And as well as I do, is that the pent up demand is from people looking for affordable housing options. The National Association of REALTORS newly released pending home sales index, a forward-looking indicator of home sales based on contract signings, dropped to 5.5 in July, and it was down 8.5% compared to a year earlier. A sales recovery did not occur midsummer, said Lawrence Yoon, NAR's chief economist. The positive impact on job growth and higher inventory could not overcome affordability challenges and some degree of wait and see related to the upcoming U.S. presidential election. I have to ask you this. I asked this before, and I'm going to ask you again. In your lifetime, have you ever heard anybody say to you, don't buy a house during an election year? Like, I've heard this my whole entire life. Like, I've heard this even way before I ever got into real estate. My first job, I remember some lady going, oh, I'm going to buy a house, but I have to wait until the election year is over. Is that like a real thing? Have you guys heard this before? And I want to know if that's a thing for you. Why? Why is that why do you have to wait and see after the election year? I just have to know. Okay. Still, some home buyers may wait until the fall to wait and see if any potential drop could improve housing affordability. This guy says, Nirvan Ghosh says that the Fed could make at least 4 rate cuts before the end of the year, and that could bring mortgage rates lower than their current mid-6 averages. What's more, home buyers may find more choices as a greater number of listings hit the market, and inventory levels are up 20% in July compared to a year ago, according to the National Association of REALTORs. Yeah. Our expectation is that a drop in mortgage rates will continue to put pressure on housing prices, giving the pent-up demand from folks who have been sitting on the sidelines, more than offsetting the increase of supply. Pending home sales by the region, all 4 major regions in the U.S. posted monthly losses in contract signings in July, according to the National Association of REALTORs. The Northeast was the only region to see pending sales rise year over year, up 2.4%. And I know that is true. The New England region has performed relatively better than other regions in recent months. Falling mortgage rates will no doubt bring buyers back into the market. I don't even think it's just the falling mortgage rates, right? If there's falling home prices, it's going to make people more. What gets people motivated is their payment. And yes, interest rates dropping makes people more excited because their payment drops. But I have long maintained that if you look at the median price home, which is just over 400 and I think 20, it depends on the statistic you look at, but I'm just going to say around 425,000. Some say it's around 450,000, whatever. If that is the median price home for a house, it doesn't matter if the interest rate is at 0. A good portion of the United States can't afford that house. But if we start seeing home prices drop and interest rates drop, that could be a really big opportunity if you're waiting, to see what's going to happen. So anyways, Damon Emmons says the Federal Reserve is going to do whatever they're going to do, regardless of who's the president. That's what I said. That's why I'm confused by what this whole thing. I'm confused why people wait, to see what happens during the election. Like, I've been doing this for quite some time, and I've seen many presidents in my real estate career. And the interest rates before they became president and after they became president pretty much don't vary that much. Like it's still the same prior to it was before. I will say this though, like in the spring, then there's more listings, but that doesn't mean anything either because there's always more spring. There's always more listings in the spring. So I don't know where the train of thought came from, but it's been around forever. I mean, like way before, like when I was itty bitty, I remember like old people saying, well, you just don't buy a house during an election year. I just never understood that. NE up? Everybody's moving back from Florida. Oh, you know what? I heard there was an increase, but I think the increase of listings from Florida where people are moving back has to do, it's like a triple fold. First, the insurance rates in Florida are very high, but everybody across the country has seen an increase in their homeowners insurance. It doesn't matter where you live, even in some of the areas that never really have really bad weather events. It just so happens that in Florida, it's even worse. So I would say the insurance rates is one thing. The second thing is the taxes. Property taxes, of course, with the prices of homes going up, property taxes go up. The third thing is that if you happen to have your snowbird condo on the beach, your condo assessments have gotten really, really high. I saw one where the condo assessment was $30,000. $30,000. So, of course, these people were like, well, I'm going to put the house up for sale when they got that condo assessment. Their condo has been for sale for 264 days because who wants to buy a $30,000 debt on top of the condo? When you're seeing all the listings on the market and you see these huge increases of supply in Florida, that supply is the majority is condos. So, Yeah, I don't blame people for just saying, you know what, forget it. I'm not living out here. I can't afford it. You know, it's going to be interesting what happens to those buildings, though. They were forced to upgrade because of, uh, you know, the state law passed where they had to bring them up to code because they had offset that for so long. And because they were forced to do that, those assessments were put on the people that own the condos, and a lot of them can't afford it. With that being said, what happens to those condos? Like, say a bunch of people move out, or they just go ahead and say, forget it, let the bank have it, and they go into foreclosure because they're like, I'm 80 years old. What is it? What's it going to happen to my credit? I don't care. You know, like there are people out there that say that because they have another home back in Connecticut or whatever. What's going to happen to those buildings? Are they going to tear them down and put brand new buildings? I mean, like, what's going to happen? It's going to be interesting to see. I don't have the answer for that, but it'll be interesting. Chuck 750 says, question, 1/4 rate drop means very little. The prices are the problem. Resale and new still want FOMO pricing. Not going to happen, folks. I will say this, that there are opportunities out there right now because there are sellers that are in a panic mode. There isn't like a huge amount of them, but there are sellers that are willing to take more of a hit than you think. So if you are in the market and you are thinking, oh my gosh, I have to move to Texas, and you know, I know the home prices are here, don't think there's not deals out there. There really are, because some sellers have no choice but to sell. And anybody that's opened a newspaper, not physically, but you know, looked online, the job market in some areas isn't great. And some sellers are in a desperate situation. I'm not saying take advantage of them, but you know that they're sitting on a lot of equity. So work that offer. Work that offer. It's unrealized gains on their home anyway. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't, even though their house went up, you know, $200,000, they're not physically holding on to $200,000. So let's just see how much they're willing to come down. Make that offer. The worst thing that can happen, the very worst thing that can happen is they say no. Big deal. It's just paper. It's just paperwork. Make the offer. See what happens. See if you can get a deal. They're out there. They're out there. Charlton Zimmerman says, do you think that it's more of insurance and property tax increase, or more of rates and selling price? Well, if the price was coming down, and this is just a warning, if you looked at a condo in Florida and you're like, okay, well, I'm willing to take on that $30,000 assessment from the HOA. But then you see all the other condos in the area that are going up for sale. You're actually buying into something that's depreciating. So how much of a deal could you possibly get? And in the long run, is that going to work out for you? Because what if you're the only one sitting in that building and then they decide to foreclose on the whole entire building? I'm just being realistic. If it was a building that was built in the 70s or even the late 80s, it needs a bunch of upgrades in order to meet new state code, and you bought in and you're willing to take on that $30,000 assessment, how many people in that particular condo association are willing to take on that assessment to upgrade it? And if they're not, and they're all moving out, what are you moving into, and what's going to happen to that building? It's something to think about. It is definitely something to think about. Back in the day, back in 2008, there was, I mean, tons of condos being built in Miami, tons of them. There were just one right after another, after another, after another. And of course, you know what happened? The real estate boom was over. So there were people that were living in buildings. If you look up like the old 60 Minutes videos, or, you know, you can archive 60 Minutes, they showed this 3 families living in this condo that wasn't even finished being built, and they were all by themselves. They were all by themselves. It took forever. I think it was like 9 years before the actual building was actually completed. It's just, I don't know. It's just something to think about. Cisco says, what is your assumption always that there will be why is the assumption always that you need to get a loan to get a house? Never heard of saving up and purchasing in full, so interest is not a deciding factor? Well, for me and my audience, a good portion of them are looking for the most affordable house that you could purchase. And with that, a lot of them are income restricted, right? Not many people. I would even let's just even do a poll in the chat. How many people have almost $500,000 in savings that you could buy a house cash? And that means that you would have a nest egg after the closing. How many of you have $500,000 cash to buy the median priced home in the United States? I do not have $500,000 cash to purchase a brand new or a house, a medium price house. We got one yes, almost, but no. Yeah. I mean, if I liquidated some stuff, I mean, I'm not saying that I don't. If I took out some of my assets and I could liquidate that, yeah, I could buy it. But yeah, not an extra 500,000. Maybe $500. Yeah, and so when you look at a mortgage, right? So you look at that mortgage, and let's just say the interest rate was that 3%. That house payment is in line with how much, even probably less than renting. So they are able to purchase that house instead of renting using a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. You may not like the system, but it's the system that's been set up for us as the United States as far as purchasing a home since World War II. And, it's really worked out for people be able to build wealth over time because they buy this house at a lower price with a decent interest rate. And let's say their son or daughter goes off to college and now they have built up this equity. They refinance, take the equity out, and then they pay for their children's college. Like these things are what people do in order to be able to further their futures for their other generations. It's one of many ways that people leverage with their equity in their house. Not many people have an extra like 500,000 to just go ahead and buy their first home. And like the average age of buying a house back in the day was like 20. When I was growing up, it was 25 years old. And now it's 37 because the price of homes have gone up so much. You have to save for a long, long time to buy the median price home. You know, a lot of them were able to do it, but you can't do that today. Um, so that's why people don't buy cash. It's very rare. In my lifetime with working with home buyers, the ones that have purchased cash are people that are a lot older, in their, 50s and 60s that are able to buy them cash. Or if they're younger, it's because some family member has given them the money to buy it cash. So it's very rare that you see just a young person to say, "Oh yeah, I was able to work at McDonald's and buy my house cash." It just doesn't happen. Just doesn't happen. You know, I, I mean, you could argue if the mortgage system is, the right system. There is argument for that, but this is the way it's been set up, and not many people can buy cash. And you can see from the comment section, that's why. Nope, nope. Yeah, and I understand my audience very much. If I was talking to a group of investors that have learned how to leverage equity and buy flips and take that equity and everything else, that would be a completely different story. But I'm talking to the average American trying to find the average home in the United States for a reasonable price. And that's why we need mortgages. I need a mortgage. Yeah. Not most of the American culture, as we are steered into spending and not saving. I don't want to argue with that. Yep. If I sold this house, I would use the equity. Exactly. My wife and I do. What, you saved for your first house? Bought it cash? MH08, thank you for coming in. He says, the money tree in the backyard hasn't bore any fruit yet. Remember your daddy would say that to you, like, where's I don't have any have a money tree out here. One year, one of my friends got a bush, and her mom had tacked a bunch of like $10 and $20 bills, and she's like, "Here's the money tree that I've been growing for you since you were a baby, and here it is. It's come to light. Now you're going to college." And she gave her this like bonsai tree that was clipped with all this money. It was cute. The average American doesn't even have $1,000 saved in cash. Is that true? I will have to look that up. Is that true? I know that since the inflationary rate has gone like absolutely bonkers, more and more Americans have been using credit cards, and like credit card rate is the highest it's been in like over a decade. So I'm lucky to have $50 extra this month. If you ever have teenage kids, you never have extra money. Like I used to hide a $20 bill in my purse, and miraculously it just went whoosh, just like that every single time. So, yeah, teenage kids will do that to you. Yep. If you guys have any questions about the real estate market, or you want to discuss anything about the real estate market, feel free. We'll put in the chat. I also wanted to tell you that pretty soon I'll be heading out to a modular home conference out in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So if you have any questions about modular homes that you want me to ask the industry experts and people that build modular homes, go ahead and email me. Or you can go to my website and fill out one of those forms and put in those questions, so that way I can ask them that. I'm going to be filming it, so that way you guys can get some good information. So the age range for median retirement savings. Oh my God. Under 35 is 18,880. 35 to 44 is 45,000. 45 to 54 is 115,000. Retirement, this is how much they have for retirement. 55 to 64 is 185,000. 65 to 74 is 200,000. 75 or older is 130,000. Well, 75 and older, it's 130,000 because they're retired probably. But that's a little alarming. Like 200,000 for retirement, and you're, 55 years old. How long can you live on that? I mean, I guess if everything is paid off, but even still with the cost of everything, how would you do it? Nancy has a question. It says, why fear a high asking price? Watch the location in the neighborhood you want and be prepared to act. Make your offer. Don't be shy. Well, that is correct. That is correct. I think some people have this conscience. Sometimes they're like, I'm afraid to ask for too low because I don't want to offend them. It isn't about offending somebody. And if you just say, sometimes if you just back it up with some facts, like, look, this offer went it through, and it, they took $10,000 less. I'm concerned about, you just tell them the reasons why you made that offer as low as you did. But if you don't care, I mean, if there's no emotion in it, then just do it. Like, this is the house. You want the best deal. You're going to make some people mad when you make a lower offer. But I mean, I hate to sound callous, but it's your money. Who cares? Like, people get mad all the time. People get mad all the time for all sorts of craziness, just like they were able to ask really high asking prices for their houses a couple of years ago. This is an opportunity for you as a home buyer to ask really low prices on their houses. The worst they can say is no. The best scenario in that case is if you guys are just negotiating back and forth. You go low, and then they kind of meet you in the middle, and then you are like, well, I want a little bit lower. I mean, work it out. Let's see what happens. Virtual real estate helper says, Utah broker here. Flippers are hurting. Days on the market are 100 plus. Call and ask the agent if feeling pitch of holding costs. Oh, okay, gotcha. Recent flip was bought for 800K. Tried to flip it for 1.2 million. Now it's at 900K. Seeing elsewhere. The biggest reductions of price in my area, the biggest reductions in price and the most I've seen, like with offers are home builders that have overbuilt and those bigger houses. So in my area, we are not the average isn't, $900,000. That's for sure. But if you have a lower priced home, if you're in the like 4 to 3 to 200,000 range, those houses do not sit. Yep. So those like 250 to 300, 400,000, those are always quick to be scooped up. And if it's priced right, they go so fast. But the ones that are overpriced, they're not offering any kind of concessions that need to be updated, those ones will sit because, there's other stuff out there and buyers are willing to wait to find something else. They're not compromising anymore. I'm thankfully home buyers are asking for inspections again. That made me nauseated during COVID. How many buyers were like, I just want the house. I don't need an inspection. And then of course they regret it now. For whatever reason, I don't know why that became a thing, but because buyers were offering it, of course, sellers took it. That made me very nervous. Very nervous. So anyways, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'm excited because I'm going off to Dallas, Texas. I'm going to be heading to Vid Summit. I'm not speaking there this year, but very excited. It's a conference for real estate, not for real estate. I'm sorry, for YouTube creators and marketers. So I'm going to be heading there on Tuesday. Lee V says, when people are getting 16,000 to 21,000 in dental bills, it's no wonder they don't have any savings. Medical is even worse. I won't argue with that. If you guys want to hear my horrible dental story that just happened to me, I will be glad to share with you. But my teeth are made of glass. Like every time I go, there's always going to be something that needs to be done. And I don't understand why dental isn't covered under our medical insurance anyways. Why does it have to be a separate policy? And it's so expensive. And let's just say, I'm going to give an example. If filling costs $50 and the insurance would cover $50, then the dentist would make the filling $100. So then if the insurance said, all right, we'll cover $100, now the dentist is going to charge you $200. Just it's crazy. Muddy Sneaker 77 says, why is land more expensive to build a manufactured home on it than building already built home? Why is land more expensive to build a manufactured home on than buying an already built home? Well, I guess that would depend on the area and what are the requirements for the area for your manufactured home. I don't have a legitimate answer for you. That wouldn't be true everywhere as far as the cost of the land. Are you talking about the cost of development of that land? Does it have to do with the permitting of that land? There's many different things that can adjust the price of building a home. There's because it's a manufactured home, they're going to require you to have X amount of width to your driveway, or they're going to say that your leach field has to be even further away from the manufactured home, and that would increase the price. There's a million different things that would increase the land price, but I don't know about that specific area that you're looking to do that. Development of land isn't cheap. And even though you can buy an inexpensive piece of land, the actual preparation of that land to have a house on it, that's where the money comes in. Like, you're only hitting the tip of the iceberg when you buy dirt. That's why I always say you're buying dirt. Once you buy that dirt, you have to put in how far away is the electrical line? How long is it going to take you to get utilities out there? Do you have to tie into the city? How much is that going to cost? Do you have to do a soil compaction test? How far away is the road frontage? Like, there's a million different things. How much is the permitting? Are you going to be able to clear the land? Is there any land leases? What does the topography say? Is there any flood zone requirements that you're going to have to meet? The list is endless. You can't just buy a piece of dirt and throw a house on it. There are requirements before you ever actually build anything, whether it's a manufactured home or a traditional built home. Yeah. That was a great question, though. That was a really good question. Land always makes me nervous because people think they can do whatever they want. And so I'm always the one that have to sit down and be like, okay, I know you're thinking that you're going to buy this for $10,000. What are you planning on doing on it? And if they say they're using it for camping, that's one thing. But if they say they're going to put a house there, I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's dial that back a little bit. This is in a conservation area. You can't just build a house, So, Eddie, you just put that question right on the screen just a second ago. All right. Virtual real estate broker. Utah broker here again says higher price comps on 9-11-month-olds. I'm assuming homes will soon no longer be acceptable, but agent sellers still using it. Prices will drop when more recent need to be used. Seeing this elsewhere. Well, I mean, that's always what is your market doing? Because if you were to talk to somebody like in New Jersey, my friend Jackie Baker, she has a channel on here. Their prices are still flying high. But if you're talking to somebody in Austin, Texas, well, their prices have adjusted quite a bit. Everything's market driven. Everything. And like even our market here in Baton Rouge is completely different than the market in New Orleans. And we're like, there's only a 45-minute difference between the two cities, but it is so incredibly different. Even before this last housing boom, I mean, the way that they do real estate down there is completely different. Oh, Eddie, we did a poll on there and I wanted to see if you could put it up on the screen if you're able to. Who's on first? Nice to see you. It says, what metrics can a buyer use to identify a soft housing market in specific regions and justify lower offers on the homes? So no matter what real estate agent you were working with in any market whatsoever. And of course, what they're going to say is the market's great. Bye. What you have to do is ask them for the last sales for the last 3 months. Ask for a cost market analysis of the area and compare those prices from a year ago. That's what you do. You do the year to date. Like, what are prices doing today? And what were they doing a year ago? And what were they doing 3 months ago? And then adjust it to that. And it can be very neighborhood specific as well. It can be very neighborhood specific. I'm getting tongue-tied today. Y'all are making me nervous. So yeah, just work with a real estate agent, and they'll pull that up. It doesn't take them much time. You can just go to any real estate office, sit down with a real estate agent, and say, "Hey, show me the numbers. Show me your MLS. Show me what's happened in the last year," and they'll do it. They'll do it, especially if they want your business. They'll do it. Eddie's pulling up that what the poll says. Maybe one of our moderators can do that. Just pull up that poll. Is football on? Maybe he's watching football. Here we go. Are you waiting to buy a home because of the price or the rates? Most of you are not waiting. Nope. Yep, you're not waiting. 24% of you are waiting for a crash. This is interesting. It's like a 50-50. Yep. Jay said, question, are realtors less likely to work with buyers now that the fees have changed for real estate agents? No. Okay, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. There is so much discussion on social media when it comes to realtors and what has happened with the lawsuit. So if you haven't heard, uh, real estate compensation has changed. It used to work, and I'm sure many of you know this, but some don't. It used to work that the sellers would go ahead and negotiate with the listing agent on a commission split between brokers. So they were, just for poops and giggles, we're going to say 3% on each side. So if the buyer's agent came in with the buyer that wrote the offer, 3% would go to the listing broker and 3% would go to the buyer's broker. That is no longer. So now it works like this. The sellers can offer a compensation to the buyer's broker, but it can't be listed on the MLS. So this is a negotiation for you as a home buyer, and it's a negotiation tool for a home seller. In some cases, you'll see it, sellers are not offering any compensation, but that doesn't mean that they won't help you pay for the compensation that would be paid to the buyer's agent. So what you can do is you have to negotiate this with an agent you want to work with. How much are you willing to pay them? And there is always room for that negotiation. There always was, but I don't think it was very clear to the public. And the agents that can't negotiate and have been terrible at negotiation skills are going to be out. And you know as well as I do that we had too many real estate agents anyway. This is called a moment of thinning the herd, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. The strong and the willing to adapt to this new way of doing real estate will survive, and those were the better agents anyway. And I know a lot of real estate agents hate this. They hate it with the burning intensity of 1,001 suns. But I think it's a way for all of us to feel like this is easier for us to negotiate prices. Um, I think. I think the public likes it a lot more, even though real estate agents hate it. Michael Knight says, "Do you have to have a buyer broker in Florida for land to purchase now? You've never needed any the You've never needed a real estate agent to either buy or sell a home. Never, not ever, never on the pay. Nope, you've never needed one. It's going to make your life a hell of a lot easier to have one because you don't understand the pitfalls that it takes to buy a piece of land. There are so many things that you don't like. Buying a house is one thing, buying a piece of land is completely different. And you have to understand what you're purchasing because the seller no longer has to give you any more information other than what you ask for. So if you feel like, oh, I got screwed because they didn't tell me, but you filled out that contract on your own, you're stuck with it. You are stuck with it. So it's always been a situation. It's a buyer beware situation now. If you are going to go at this at your own risk and you're going to fill out these forms on your own, just be very cautious on what you're doing. And I always say hire somebody, whether that's a real estate attorney, a real estate agent, but even if it's a real estate agent, I want you to be aware and work with people that understand land. There's so many things that can happen with a piece of dirt. Make sure you work with somebody that's an expert in land. Real estate agent must be an expert in buying and purchasing land. Real estate attorney, if you're going to do it that way, understands everything, that the ins and outs of a piece of land. And I saw somebody that I didn't see them. They messaged me yesterday and they were like, oh, I saw a piece of land on Facebook. I can get a really good deal that way. I understand, but there's so much fraud, especially on these other social media sites when people are selling land that they don't even own. They may have pictures, they may have some really formal looking papers, they may even have property disclosures, they may even have some FEMA flood maps, and it's all fake. And then, they have this notary that comes to their house and they sign all these official papers. They hand over a check cash, $15,000, $20,000, and they think they got themselves a piece of land. They did not. They did not. So always work with the right people when you're purchasing a piece of land. Yeah. So I'm not discouraging you from doing anything that you want to do for yourself. Absolutely not. You can do that, but make sure you understand what you're purchasing when you do that. Excuse me. I had to take a little shippy ship of water there. Eddie, are you around? Or did you? Oh, here we go. I don't know what he's doing. Sometimes you know what happens? This is no joke. Eddie's reading the comment section, and then he doesn't realize that something's been on the screen for so long. And it's really hard for me to read the comment section. And then we had a question that came up not too long ago. Are you familiar with Jimmy Jean Real Estate out of Live Oak, Florida? I am not. I am not. Muddy Sneaker says, question, will the 150 to 300K for illegal aliens in California or the 30K in Oregon to prove that homes are not going to go down due to government and state intervention? Buy an overpriced home, else it'll never happen. Let's try this again. I can read, I promise. It says, will 150 to 300K for illegal aliens in California and 30K in, or prove that homes are not going down due to government and state intervention? Buy an overpriced home now or else it'll never happen? I don't know what you're asking. Are you saying that because governments are going to buy up more affordable homes for low income people, that will bring down the price of real estate? And that's why there's going to be a problem with that, because then it will cause all home prices to come down. I don't have an answer for you on that. I do know that if you have a more stable housing market and it has more affordable housing in the area for all incomes, it actually adds to a more stable market. Doesn't increase the value of your home very much. It would be like a normal market of 2 to 3% each year. But it would stop a lot of this inflated home prices that have happened over the last 3 to 4 years. If anybody's ever lived I used to live in tax credit housing, and a lot of people think that when you think of government housing, it's awful. You think of the homes that you saw in the 70s and it's awful, but it's really not. And Eddie and I's first house was tax credit housing. Was it all the bells and whistles? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it wasn't terrible and it looked fine. You wouldn't know it by driving by it. But we'll see. Debbie Brady says, future. She says, looks like you're almost at 300,000 subscribers. Woohoo! I think I'm 300 subscribers away from the 300,000 mark. I've taken a little summer sabbatical. I took 3 weeks off. There should be a video coming out this Tuesday at 3:00, and it is about somebody who bought a Clayton home. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Clayton Homes. They are a manufactured home company that builds affordable manufactured housing. And he's going to be sharing his story. So if you're in the market of buying a manufactured home, brand new, it is going to be very important for you to watch this. It was a lot of lessons to be learned from this. And that way you can't make the same mistakes he did. And that's why he really wanted to share his story. He and I have been talking for the last month about everything. So I actually have updates to the story along through the video. So interesting. It's a really good video. 86 liked it, 314 watching. We can do better. Yeah, we can do better. I want to get back to the land and the manufactured house because I keep thinking about this. So whenever you're searching for land for a manufactured home, make sure that the land that you're looking at allows for manufactured housing. This happens a lot here in our area. Some people buy a piece of land and they're like, oh, I really love this. They find out, a year later when they're going to build it, they're not allowed to put a manufactured home on that piece of land. It's zoned for just single family housing, but not zoned for manufactured housing. So be aware of what you're purchasing to make sure it's allowed for manufactured housing. And that's even true because it's the word manufactured housing. That is even true for modular homes, even though they're built exactly like traditional built homes, because it's made in a manufacturing plant and the ways that the law is written in the area, you have to have it approved. Now, if you take your modular home plans to planning and zoning and tell them exactly what you're doing and show them exactly how it's going to be built, most of the time they're going to allow you to do it because it is traditional home building. But the way that these have been put on the books, they say all manufactured housing because they don't understand that a modular home is a traditional built home. It's just some of the components were built in a factory. But, they're catching up, though. The verbiage is catching up. Just Headphone says, how should I pay for my closing costs in Texas? $500K. How should I pay for my closing costs in Texas for $500K? How much should I pay for? Oh, that's all right. How much should they pay for their closing costs in Texas? This is going to depend on your loan, your interest rates, your credit history. Your closing costs could be all over the map. Like the next person that comes in with a $500,000 loan, their closing costs could be completely different because there's so many different factors. I always tell everybody, just keep a minimum of $10,000 in your back pocket for closing costs. That's just a roundabout my number. It doesn't matter if you're buying a $200,000 house or a $700,000 house, at least have $10,000 in your back pocket for closing. That's what I tell people. D-Jack, thank you. This gal gives great info. Love her. Thank you. I feel like I'm off my game today. I feel like I'm stuttering or something. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I need more sleep. Sue Jackson says, can you buy a tear down and put a modular home there? That will depend on your area. So in a lot of cases, you can. And if you work with a modular home company and you show them your previous plan and then work with your the foundation there, as long as it's sound, in some cases they can actually adjust the modular home to fit on your current pad. I met a lady in Pennsylvania. Was it Pennsylvania? Connecticut. Maybe it was Pennsylvania. Connecticut. Anyways, she her house unfortunately had burned down, but the pad was still there. So they were able to take down the burnt down pieces. She ended up contacting the same modular home company that had put in her home 30 years earlier. They came back out, readjusted her house, and she was able to build it again. And now it was built, some adjustments were made to it, but she was able to use the same exact pad and put everything on there, just like it had been before. Yeah, so technically, yes, you can, but just work with the modular home company, show them the pad, have them come out there, and they can figure it all out for you. Mark R says, painting a master bedroom right now. Yeah, selling a house in California, moved to Lake Tahoe in November side of 2025. So my house will be painted from the trim all the way down to the floorboards. Every single wall will be repainted before we sell this house. Not only that, the floors will be rebuffed, reshined, refurbished, because I have 9 cats and 3 dogs and 2 teenagers. And, people are in and out of this house this house has been loved, but the new buyers will get a fully refurbished house, because there's no way I'm going to put it on the market with all the dings and the chipped paint. No way. V-Man says, who can tell you what you can build a home on your recreational property, the HOA or the county? Who do we call to find out? Okay, so if you are concerned about your piece of land, you have to go to planning and zoning. All of your HOA restrictions, whether they're inactive or active, will be there, and they will tell you exactly what you can and cannot do on that piece of property. Some people have bought a piece of land that they had no idea that was in an HOA. The HOA restrictions had been filed, but they hadn't been maintained over X amount of years. So those HOA restrictions could be out the window. Planning and zoning will let you know that. And another thing is that the permitting office can help you with that as well, because all those things, they're not going to give you a permit on something that you can't build on that particular area. I would go to the HOA if it's an active HOA and discuss it with them, but that doesn't mean it's the end all be all, because sometimes people that are behind the HOA are not completely aware of all the rules. And sometimes they'll tell you, well, yeah, you can't do this. You can't have a driveway at an angle because that's against the restrictions, but it's nowhere in the restrictions, and they're full of garbage, and they just want to, they're going to put on their I'm important hat, like we get that all the time, you can't have flower beds around your mailbox because it's against the restrictions. Nowhere does it say in the restrictions, Jim, there's some people that just get on their happy horse and want to be so big and strong because I run the association. No. So I mean, absolutely talk to your homeowners association, but double check it with your town's planning and zoning office. If you want to pull up any of the restrictions, you can check with the title office too. If you just closed on the piece of property, your title office will have those restrictions that are already in the file. They'll be able to pull those out really quickly. And even before you close on the house, you should ask for a copy of those restrictions so you can look over them. Are you a cat lady? I wasn't a cat lady. I never liked cats until we got a cat. And I absolutely fell in love with cats. There is so much cat slander in the world. And I guarantee it's because, and I was one of them, I will admit it, I used to say terrible things about cats. The minute I got a cat, the second I got a cat, I'm like, why was I so hateful? Hey, I love them so much. They're the best little creatures. They are little babies. I think my husband and I are just trying to fill up our empty nest because both of our kids are in college and we just keep collecting cats. I will admit that a few of these cats belong to my children, and when they move out, they will be taking these cats with them. But we do love ourselves some cats. They're very fun. They're very sweet. They have their own little personalities. I love them. Yes, I'm a cat lady. Aw, cat ladies are the best people. And Kristina is now one of us. Yeah, one of us. We had a cat when we were growing up that was the meanest cat in the whole entire world. Matter of fact, even scratched one of the neighbor kids, and this cat climbed up my arm. Horrible cat growing up. Mean. I think it was feral, and my dad tried to make it a indoor house cat, and it really was never meant to be a house cat. So that was the only cat experience I had until my daughter needed an animal. Her poor little puppy had passed away, and she had been so sad, and then she talked us into a cat. And as soon as we got this cat, the whole family fell in love with him. And I'm like, well, that's her cat. Now I want a cat. And then we ended up getting Eddie a cat. Then we ended up getting Sydney a cat. And then her cat needed a cat because he was wild. So then we got him a kitten. And then, of course, I wanted my own cat. And then I got a cat. So no more cats, though. I can't do anymore. Yep. Overjoyed had 8 cats. And I'm very aware of that when I go to sell my home, that a lot of people do not like animals. They don't want to have a house with animals. So I'm going to be respectful in the fact that when I go to sell this house, I plan on moving out. I plan on like kills, do a kills on the whole entire thing. I have wall to wall wood flooring throughout this house. I am going to refurbish all of those wood floors so it looks basically like a brand new house inside. I would never, ever, ever, you know, just put this house on the market looking the way it does now, even if I had to paint it myself. I There's just no way. Especially when you have teenage kids too, because they don't have the same kind of idea of what clean is. you So I would definitely put it in the best shape possible before I ever put it on the market. Yeah. I have 4 cats. I like them more than people. Yes. See, but when you bringing it back to real estate, if you have animals in your home, on your property disclosure in many states, you have to list that you have those animals in the house because there's people that have allergies, very serious allergies. Um, just be respectful of the fact that, don't lie. Let them know that you do have animals in the home, whether that's birds. Some lady had a giant tortoise in her backyard. There was another one that had a pet monkey, like these little monkeys. Like all these things matter to other people. So, be honest in your property disclosure when you go to sell your house. But I love me some animals. I do. My parents are like horrified that we have so many cats. They don't even come over anymore because my dad's allergic and he won't come over. If he does, he just sits at the island and he just sits there and he's like, "Get the cat away from me." So, yep. Christina, so you've already gone way past the cat lady starter kit. Oh, I'm way past it. I'm not in a hoarder situation. These cats are very well taken care of. Matter of fact, our vet is like, you guys are the best animal people ever because we had an incident with one of our cats. And we're there all the time. We're there every week. And he's like, I've not seen a pet owner that has this many animals that always brings in their pet right when they need to, when there's something that goes on. A lot of times they'll let it go because it's so expensive. But I feel like you guys are reasonable price and these are our children. We would not let this go. There was an incident last week where by accident, the wrong flea medication went on 2 of our cats. And of course, I followed the internet and did exactly what we're supposed to do, but they were still having problems. I mean, it could have killed them, could have killed these cats because it was dog flea medication. And we brought them right in and they took care of them right away. Don't ask me how much that cost to take care of that. That was a very expensive mistake, but we did it. Okay, yeah, we got way off topic. Way off topic. Sorry. Sorry, we did get off topic. Anybody has any real estate questions, please put them in the chat because we went off on cats and I would talk about that forever. While I'm waiting for a question, I'm going to throw this last cat thing in here. My daughter's boyfriend is going off to school in Florida and he has to live on campus. And of course, he can't bring his cat. So we're going to have 10, 10 cats. So they'll be interesting. Did you guys see this thing in Colorado? There's supposedly a Venezuelan gang that took over an apartment complex in I think it's Aurora, Colorado. Aurora, Colorado. I've been seeing it all over the internet that like this gang has taken over this apartment complex. So me doing some internet because I've been reading all about this because I'm like, this sounds absolutely crazy because they say the mayor isn't going to do anything about it. Come to find out that this building that they say that these Venezuelan gangs have taken over is in a huge state of disrepair. I mean, there's boards on the windows and it has been in disrepair for many, many years. This is not in the best area of Colorado. And the landlord has gotten in trouble for all sorts of violations. And it'll be interesting to see what actually comes out of this because like the way that the internet has portrayed this building And what's actually going on there are two different stories. I'm just waiting for the chips to fall where they may for the truth to come out. If you want my conspiracy theory that I think is happening with this building, is that a landlord has been a slumlord for a very long time. He's trying to get out of having to pay all these fines and have the building condemned so he doesn't have to pay these fines. So he trickled out this scenario because there's been a ton of arrests around this area because, like I said, it was in a very good area. And he's using this story as well. My buildings, there's nothing, I couldn't fix these things because, I have Venezuelan gangs in my buildings. That's what I think. That's what I think is happening. I don't know that, but that's how I read the articles and I'm looking back at some of this stuff. That's what I think is going on there. If anybody's seen this. Flade Man says, when prices collapse 40%, wake me up and I might buy something. A lot of people feel that way because, it would be nice if you could get a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Orlando, Florida for 135,000. Needs a lot of work, like one of those, like, yeah, sure, the outside needs to be done and it hasn't been decorated since the early 60s and, it hasn't been painted or anything. Like, maybe needs a new roof, but if you could find one, 135,000 in a little neighborhood, that'd be great. I don't predict that happening unless we see huge amount of job loss across the United States. Yeah, that would be the thing that would cause home prices to drop a lot, because we just don't have the same supply of homes on the market. They just haven't been building them since the last crash. But I get it. I understand. I was shocked when home prices climbed as high as they did back in 2006, 7, and before it fell apart. I was blown away because I'm like, we bought this house for 135,000. There's no way that it's now 350,000. I thought that was stupid. And then, of course, this was in Florida. They rolled back, but not back to 135,000. Never did. So Proud Liberal 24, nice to see you in the chat. It says, how will the drop in interest rates affect housing prices? Increased price, no effect. Just like anything to house supply and demand. I think that if you look at anything in the affordable housing space, if there is a lack of supply and interest rates come down, you're gonna see people fighting for those lower priced homes. But if we have an increase of supply of homes, then we could have a flat market where there's and that's not bad either. At least there's activity happening, homes are getting sold. I just think that sellers are more realistic now as they see things have changed. They're more willing to work with home buyers more willing than they were a couple years ago, even a year ago, even in the lower priced homes. In our area, it's like that, especially, throughout the only place I'd say is still like going crazy is like New Jersey, New England, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, even parts of Pennsylvania, like that Northeast area. Everybody I talked to, they're like, we still had, we had 15 offers. I'm like, what are you talking about? Really? Wow. We don't have that here in Baton Rouge. That isn't a thing. That isn't a thing. But I just think it will create more activity for first-time home buyers. I think that home prices are not going to necessarily drop as low as they want them to. What they're looking for, that's for sure. That is for sure. What is everybody doing for Memorial Day? Are you guys going to do any house shopping? I have if you're going to go house shopping in some states and you're going to go to like agent open house or any of those open houses, they'll have a sign-in sheet for you to view the house, and they have to do that. And it's not that they're trying to take anything away from you or rope you into anything. It's that the new rules for the brokerages in some MLSs are requiring before you even step through the door, you have to sign in to preview the house. It's just the way things go. All right. C. Foster says, question, thinking about buying a lot in my subdivisions. It's wooded, lots of tall trees and brush. Do we have to pay to clear it, or do the builders clear it when they build the home? That will depend on the subdivision. A lot of times the builders will clear the land, but see what they put in their terms. some builders, for some reason, they try to save the trees, but I'm going to warn everybody about this, especially if you live in the South. A lot of the trees that you see, the root system is actually on the surface and it doesn't go down like we used to see in science class, right? So even the trees, the most beautiful, beautiful trees, willows, stuff like that, whatever the equipment, the heavy equipment starts running over those roots, even though after your house is built, that tree's still there, it's still green. 5 years from now, it hasn't been getting enough water. It's been dying since you built the house, and they will fall over. So trees are lovely. I love trees. They create shade and everything else. But when you're going to build a home, in most cases, it's probably going to be the best thing to remove as much trees around there, especially if there's going to be heavy equipment running over that root system. But normally the builder clears out that land. But find out before you find out from the listing agent, and then write it in the offer. If they say, no, we're not going to clear it, write it in the offer. Say, I'll buy it for this amount of money, but you have to clear it out first. Noreen says, will we ever see builders build communities of smaller starter homes? There's Noreen, that will depend on the area. I think for home builders, they're in a predicament because the cost of developing land is very expensive and it takes a very long time. So they're putting in their own capital to get this land developed for them to build these houses on. There's no incentive for them to build a smaller home. And so they try to fit as much house as they possibly can legally on that lot so they can make the most money. If you gave home builders some kind of incentive, whether that's tax credits, whatever it is, to build smaller homes, then they would do it. But in the way that the world works now, if they're going to invest that money in developing that land and they have put that money in ahead of time, sometimes it takes 10 to 15 years before a development is even allowed to build their first house. So you imagine you've been putting in all this money, time, effort, developing this land. You finally can put houses in there and they're telling you, oh, well, you can only put 800 square foot houses. They would die. There would not be home building happening. But if you incentivize home builders and told them, like, look, we know you could put 1,500 square foot houses or 4,000 square foot houses, but we'll incentivize you with all these tax credits if you at least make half the neighborhood in the smaller, more affordable range, and this is what you'll get. They'll do it. Even it doesn't even necessarily have to be the entire neighborhood. It could be a portion of the neighborhood. Like the first half of the neighborhood are the smaller, more affordable houses, and the back house, the bigger houses. Give them some incentive to build those smaller houses. If you don't give them the incentive, they're going to put as big of a house as they can fit on that lot legally. So, Kristina, Memorial Day is in 9 months away. Oh, did I say Memorial Day? Happy Labor Day, everybody. I'm sorry. It's very possible I said Memorial Day instead of Labor Day. I very, very, very possible. Christina's brain is Swiss cheese. I turned 50 and I can't even think straight. So, I turned 50 a while back, but I'm just saying once I turned 50, the brain went out the window. Question, will asking for an inspection reduce the chance that the seller will help with the closing costs? Absolutely not. I mean, I'm sure there's some sellers that are going to say, like, oh, you can't do that or we won't give you closing costs. But I mean, come on. If you as a home buyer should want to know what the heck's wrong with this house. If the home seller is telling you, we don't want you to have an inspection, that is a red flag for you as a buyer. What are they hiding? Why don't they allow me to get a home inspection? Or why are they punishing me, for wanting a home inspection? That to me is yeah. No, there's always a negotiation tool, right? Some inspections can be done where you say, look, I want a home inspection. I will not ask for more than $10,000 in repairs. That's how I've seen some offers be put together, or or they can cap it off. Like, let's just say that there's something wrong with the air conditioning roof and the roof. And they'll say, well, okay, this is actually going to cost me, $30,000 to repair. And I'm only asking for $15,000 off the sales price so I can repair these things after I move in. There's a million different ways you can negotiate this out and still get your closing costs. Because the next buyer that's going to come through is going to find those same things that are wrong with that inspection report. They're not going to hide it. They're not going to hide it. So anyways, I hope everybody has a wonderful Labor Day. I hope you guys get everything together. Maybe someone will even go water skiing. And if you haven't that yet, maybe you should go adopt a cat. Thank you so much to our moderators that have kept the chat clean. Next week, if there's anything in particular you want us to talk about, I will have a guest. Let me know in the chat and I'll put it up on the screen. Maybe we can get Kyle back. I love having Kyle on here, Kyle Seagraves. If you are wanting to share this live stream with somebody, I actually have this uploaded as a podcast. Just look for Kristina Smallhorn, Real Estate for Everyone, and you can share this episode with your friends tomorrow. Eddie will have it uploaded tomorrow on the holiday. And if you need to get a hold of me, I will be out of town for the whole entire week, but you can still email me by going to my website, click on one of the pink buttons and fill out the form. Just go ahead and fill that out and I will get back to you ASAP. Yay! Look, there you go. And there's a little section at the bottom where you can put in your questions that you want to ask. So everybody, thank you so much for spending the day with me. I appreciate every single one of you. And if you haven't yet, go adopt a cat. Go adopt a cat. All right, everybody. So long. Farewell. Evita Zane. Tschüss, as they say. Be good. Stay out of trouble. Don't talk to strangers. Look both ways before crossing. Eddie has no music for us today. Oh, that's so sad. Bye, everyone. Thank you. This is a jam. Happy Labor Day! Oh, look, I can put my hands on each side. Woo! Woo!